Hi everyone. For those who don't know me already, my name is Justin Bannon. I'm founder of Boson and Fermion protocols. And today I'm here to talk to you about the physical real-world asset super-system and its role in the battle for control of everything. Um, so what we're going to discuss today is why we need decentralized infrastructure to tokenize and trade all physical real-world assets. Why is it that we need this, and why is it important that it's decentralized? So undeniably, the race is on to tokenize all assets on chain. I mean, don't take it from me, take it from the founder of the largest asset manager on the planet, Larry Fink, the CEO and founder of BlackRock. This quote has bounced around the internet that the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization. Now, I completely agree with that, and welcome, of course, the funding in the form of Bitcoin ETFs and recently announced ETH ETFs. I mean, for sure, crypto needs this funding and adoption, but this is a Faustian pact. In many ways, this is a deal with the devil, because BlackRock and these sort of huge financial organizations already control the world's financial system, and use this control to extract from all of us. So we must be aware and understand that TradFi entering crypto is not, oh, amazing, they're adopting our ideals. In many ways, this threatens a sort of subversion of Satoshi's vision of a decentralized financial system, a system that we own, a system that is neutral, and a system where we get to share in the value that we create. And I'd point everyone to this recent Bitcoin Magazine article, which really kind of exposes this plan on behalf of BlackRock and many other of these big financial institutions who are getting into real world asset tokenization, and talks about this plan for them to own the infrastructure for tokenizing, which in control, in turn means that they will be able to control that infrastructure and ultimately the world's real world assets. And so it's pretty explicit plan by the likes of BlackRock and major financial institutions to tokenize all the world's assets onto this single universal centralized ledger. So a ledger that they control. And we see this as really this battle for the control of the tokenization infrastructure as a battle for the control of everything. So, on the one hand, you've got decentralized infrastructure, which promises to, build an alternate financial system with public ownership, control, and value sharing, versus, on the other side, centralized infrastructure, which really is just what I call like on-chain CeFi, on-chain centralized finance. Exactly the same sort of business model and paradigm, just using blockchain technology. And this just leads to the likes of BlackRock controlling everything, even assets, even assets like your car, your house, and your physical things that are currently out of the reach of these sort of centralized ownership, threaten to be put on an asset ledger controlled by them. So I also recently wrote an article about the importance of Web3 as being this kind of safeguard of public liberty. And what we need to resist this centralized control of all our physical assets is open, decentralized infrastructure for tokenizing and trading real world assets. if we're going to be putting trillions and trillions of dollars worth of assets onto a ledger, then we, the public, need that protection of it being decentralized rather than enabling it, allowing it to be captured by centralized entities. So my mission, as I sort of set out in an academic paper I wrote with Professor Jason Potts, is to bring about a new computable economy, which in turn will unlock this sort of exponential wealth by building the decentralized infrastructure for physical real world assets. So let's sort of unpack a little bit what that means. So firstly, let's look at the different types of real world assets. So we have natively on-chain assets like cryptocurrencies and NFTs. So that, they're already on-chain by definition. But in addition, many assets that that we currently call real world assets, any of these assets that can be, we're seeing that they will be transferred fully on chain. So real world assets like equity, debt, bonds, and even fiat, all of these can be originated on chain, and we're seeing these being transferred directly on chain. And as Larry Fink has confirmed as well. But when we look at physical assets, so let's think cars, gemstones, precious metals, property, wine, watches, commodities. All of these have a physical residue, which must be exchanged off-chain. Even if we have a token that represents ownership that's on-chain, there is always going to be this kind of physical residue that's exchanged and settled off-chain. So we can define these two categories of on-chain assets and physical assets. And now, if you look at the category of physical assets, they are broadly divided into two categories depending on the method required to exchange them. So for everyday assets, let's call them kind of commerce assets, just sending from buyer to seller directly and dealing with any disputes after the fact. So exactly the sort of model that you would get in e-commerce with Amazon, etc. That is an efficient, low cost, but also low verification model, and that prevails. But that doesn't work for all assets. Some assets, as I mentioned, like watches, fine wine, gems, etc. They require a higher level of verification. So in that case, the seller will send the asset to a verifier, will verify their authenticity, and then they'll be held by a custodian, and then you'll get this sort of atomic exchange of value of the payment from the buyer to the seller and the physical asset from the custodian to the buyer. So that means that we can broadly divide physical real-world assets into these two categories: commerce physical real-world assets and verified physical real-world assets. Now, as many of you will know, we've already built the general purpose decentralized infrastructure for tokenizing commerce physical real-world assets, and that is Boson Protocol. We've been used by over 60 brands globally, and we've just integrated with WooCommerce with 4 million stores, and so very much that we've built that infrastructure. But there's no general purpose decentralized infrastructure for tokenizing and exchanging verified physical real-world assets. So, the current options are either use some sort of centralized ledger for physical real-world assets, the likes of BlackRock are developing, which kind of cedes control of these assets over to sort of financial elites. or there are multiple proprietary platforms that are tokenizing real world assets. But, as I've mentioned before, these are very much on-chain CeFi platforms, the same platform extractionary platform model as for Web2, just happen to be on a blockchain. So it doesn't really deliver the promise of Web3. And then there are multiple decentralized protocols. Most of those have got quite a naive implementation of protocol design. And then amazingly, there's also many entrepreneurs, be they in wine or watches or property or diamonds, that are just building their own protocols, which is a very specialized sort of job to do. So that's why we built Fermion protocol. So Fermion is the decentralized protocol for fractionally tokenizing and trading any physical real world asset. And so Fermion represents this single decentralized ledger for verified physical real world assets. So control of these physical assets is secured on this decentralized ledger, and therefore out of the kind of grasp of centralized intermediaries. And this is general purpose infrastructure as well. It's built by the global experts in decentralized physical real world asset technology, and can be used and extended to tokenize any verified physical real world asset. Fermion, just like Boson, is a minimally extractive protocol, what we call a minimally extractive coordinator. So it does this job for low fees, with the community getting to share in the value they create, rather than siphoning value from the users to shareholders. And it's permissionless. Anyone can use this permissionless infrastructure. So sellers can use it to tokenize their assets, and builders can build on top of it. They can bring verifiers, they can bring custodians, they can bring assets, they can build apps on top. And lastly, everyone can trust. So because of decentralized governance, it ensures that, unlike most other platforms, it can't be evil. Okay. So some of the architecture of the physical real world asset super system is sort of described in this diagram. So you can see Boson at the base layer. So all assets are first tokenized on Boson, but then optionally assets can be fractionalized and verified on Fermion. And as part of this, the Fermion layer, so the fractional NFTs are fractionalized into ERC20s that plug directly into DeFi. So it really provides this sort of seamless, interoperable connector between the physical world and DeFi, all the while being fully decentralized infrastructure. So Boson is this efficient trust minimized tokenization and exchange of any physical real world asset. And then Fermion is fractional tokenization and exchange of any verified physical real world asset. And between the pair of them, they will enable the tokenization of any physical real world asset. And so this physical real world asset super system performs this very foundational role. So from an article I wrote, I've got a quote which is that, in much the same way that Web2 transformed access to information and created this single global sort of archive for information, ledger for information, we see this vision that all physical things will be tokenized, listed, and traded on a single decentralized on-chain market. And that's what we're building here with the physical real-world asset super system. So we're building the decentralized infrastructure for all physical real-world assets. So just to close then, I need to share the Zeeli code for those of you participating in the quest, which is PRWASS. obviously stands for Physical Real World Asset Super-system. And for those of you who want to find out more, please follow us. Either visit website of Boson or Fermion, or follow Boson or Fermion on X. What I will say is, as a kind of an alpha leak for those of you who've stayed with us until the end of this webinar, that we will be doing a public sale of Fermion after the summer. So by following us, Fermion on X, you will be the first to be informed of that. Thank you.